In the top stories, High Commission in London puts spotlight on local authors. Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccines now available to the public in Antigua and Barbuda, and flooding spreads across Germany, many still missing. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today's Tuesday, the 20th of July, 2021. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, the High Commission of St. Kitts and Nevis in London has embarked on an initiative to showcase nationals of St. Kitts and Nevis who are published authors. The August 2021 month-long activity dubbed Month of Literacy will see the use of the London High Commission's social media and other platforms to feature the published literary works of Kittitian and Nevisian nationals. One of the objectives of this enterprise is to highlight the scholarly achievements of nationals in the area of written word. It's also hoped that this venture will inspire other nationals to write, tell, and publish their stories. The ministry is inviting published authors from St. Kitts and Nevis to participate in this activity by submitting the following for the attention of the Minister Councillor, the High Commissioner of St. Kitts and Nevis, 10 Kensington Court, London, W85DL, United Kingdom. The deadline is Friday, 30th July. You're asked to submit a copy of the author's published book or books, a photo, headshot, a biography of the author, a maximum of 100 words, a link to a website where interested persons can buy the author's books as well. Authors will be featured for a period between 1 and 4 days depending on the level of response received. The St. Kitts and Nevis University of the West Indies Alumni Association held elections on Friday, July 16, and new executive board members were elected. The new board is led by President Jehan Williams and Vice President Desi Brown. The other members are Secretary Michael Blake, Assistant Secretary Mentrice Atherton, Treasurer Laverne Brooks, Assistant Treasurer Sharice Dolphin Gums, Publication and Promotions Officer Lesroy Williams, Members and Data Officer Kayla Farrell, Youth Alumni Facilitator Xavier John Bass, Social Media Facilitator Jacqueline Bryan, Executive Members Dr. Joan Rollins and Felicia Walters. The President serves a 2-year term while the other members of the Executive serve 1-year terms. The immediate past President is Mr. Craig Tuckett, who will continue to serve as an ex officio member. Mr. Tuckett was recently elected as the UE Global Alumni Representative, consequently serves on various committees at the university level. And now a quick programming note. Tonight's edition of Leadership Matters with Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris has been cancelled. The program is expected to resume next Tuesday, July 27 at its usual time. Leadership Matters airs on ZIZ Radio and other participating radio stations. It's also streamed live on social media platforms, including the Facebook and YouTube pages of the St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service. We now move on to news on the regional scene. Members of the public in Antigua and Barbuda now have a choice regarding the COVID-19 vaccine they receive, with the Sinopharm now available. It means members of the public who have not yet been vaccinated can choose to get either Sinopharm or the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, which is the jab being administered from the start of the vaccination program. ABS's Jessica Russell was at a multipurpose center where Sinopharm is available.
Antiguans and Barbudans can now choose between 2 brands of COVID-19 vaccines.
China's Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine is now available to the public exclusively at the Multipurpose Cultural Center. However, when we arrived there about an hour after the station had opened, no one had requested it.
Not as yet. We started at 9. We haven't seen anyone as yet, but we're anticipating persons coming out for the vaccine.
Nurse Wetsin Qualis, who works at the site, says when people come to get vaccinated, they'll be informed that they can choose between Sinopharm and the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine.
As it pertains to the Sinopharm, we have a 4 weeks interval where you get your second dose, as opposed to the 8 to 12 weeks for the AstraZeneca.
However, the aftercare, regardless of which shot you get, will be the same.
It is a foreign substance that enters your body and is expected to establish an immune response. So you're likely to have some pain at the area, some immobility, some swelling, some chills also. And so the same precautions as it pertains to keeping yourself hydrated, taking your paracetamol every 6 hours.
The People's Republic of China donated 20,000 Sinopharm doses to the country in June. Jessica Russell, ABS News.
In Guyana, the implementation of COVID-19 passes is necessary to protect public health. That's the view of Health Advisor to the Ministry of Health, Dr. Leslie Ransamy, who is adamant that unvaccinated persons need to prove that they're not putting vaccinated persons at risk. Kendall Richmond of HGP Nightly News reports.
Dr. Leslie Ransamy, advisor to the Ministry of Health, is advocating for the institution of COVID-19 passes for work and social settings in Guyana as a way to protect those persons who have taken the COVID-19 vaccine. This opinion was shared by Dr. Ransamy via a Facebook post on Sunday and comes on the heels of an announcement made by French President Emmanuel Macron to have the rights of healthcare workers and other frontline workers in France protected against persons who are opting to not participate in the country's ongoing vaccination drive. Speaking to the media at the sidelines of a GPHC press conference on Monday, Dr. Ransamy, in justifying his belief, expressed that this policy, once adopted, will ensure public health safety.
I have long advanced the position that whilst it is still a voluntary exercise, taking the vaccine, that we also have a right. And in fact, we have an obligation to protect the rest of the population.
While vaccination in Guyana is not mandatory, Dr. Ransamy shared the belief that those who refuse to access the vaccines should prove to the vaccinated population that they are not a risk.
If you don't want to take the vaccine, prove to me that you are not infected before you can share my workplace, before you can share my other space. You don't have a right to say, by exercising my right, and for you to keep yourself safe, you must not come to work.
Like France, Dr. Ransamy believes that unvaccinated persons in Guyana should provide a negative PCR test before they enter their work sites or other public settings. He further believes that this PCR test should not be provided by the public health sector.
In Guyana, my thing is that the public sector must be dedicated to diagnosis. People who are sick, we must check them out, not for people who got to prove that they are negative in order to go to work. If that's your choice, you don't want the vaccine, you are more scared of the vaccine than of COVID-19, then go do the test at your cost.
According to Dr. Ransamy's Facebook post, I quote, "If you want to exercise a right to not take the vaccine, you must be prepared to face the consequences at your cost, not mine," end of quote. In France, those who do not get vaccinated will not be able to go to cafes from the beginning of August, cinemas and museums from July 21, and get on airplanes or trains from August. Alternatively, they will have to submit a negative test, which will no longer be free. Dr. Ransamy believes that, I quote, "France is doing the right thing," end of quote. Guyana's vaccination program, which began in February this year, has to date seen 49.9% of the country's adult population receiving the first dose of the AstraZeneca, Sputnik, and Sinopharm vaccines, while 26.3% of the adult population is fully immunized. For the HGP Nightly News, Kendall Richmond.
Internationally, in southeast Germany, along the border with Austria, rescuers and volunteers are still digging through some of the debris, trying to assess the damage that was done when rivers flooded the area. Over the weekend, residents were asked to head to higher ground and not to go out on the street. Some were even evacuated as torrential rains fell. CGTN has this report.
Following the devastation in the western German states of North Rhine-Westphalia and Rhineland-Palatinate, the entire country has been on high alert. Heavy rains over the weekend in southeast Bavaria shifted the public's attention. Here in Berchtesgadenerland, declared a disaster zone, flood warnings were sent out to many communities over the weekend as torrential rains battered the area, flooding basements. The Beschmeyer family say they saw water in their cellar up to 60 centimeters.
Also das war in der Nacht von Samstag auf Sonntag.
So it happened in the night, Saturday to Sunday. It was a short rain period. For about 45 minutes, it rained hard. Then it calmed down, but it was enough to overflow the streams and bridges.
Die Bäche und Brücken überschwommen sind.
With the area located at the base of the Alps, the fear of mudslides have been of great concern.
400 million euros is under discussion for nationwide emergency aid to help the victims of the floods. Yet here in this region, the damage has been rather sporadic. Some houses seeing very minimal damage, while others losing almost everything.
The 130 residents that were evacuated over the weekend have now been allowed to slowly return home under certain conditions. But for others, going home is not an option, as some homes have been declared unsafe. On Sunday, the Premier of Bavaria, Markus Söder, visited the most affected areas.
We are deeply concerned. What you build up your entire life is flushed away in a night. A life you have known before is totally different.
Yet there has been a lot of criticism over the government's response to the floods. One opposition party has called for the resignation of the federal Interior Minister Horst Seehofer, accusing the federal government of failing to warn the people early on, despite the information available about the impending storm catastrophe. Some affected residents agree. European leaders are blaming climate change for the floods, which have also affected Belgium, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and Austria.
Even in the state capital, Munich, the Isar River, which runs through the city, has reached levels, high enough levels, that the officials there are concerned and have even cordoned off some of the bridges to keep the community safe. While the level of the rivers have subsided somewhat here in the southeast of the country, and the state of disaster, which was placed on the area, will be lifted Tuesday morning, officials are still very much concerned about the potential risks of landslides and mudslides, leaving emergency services teams here well on alert. Natalie Carney for CGTN in Berchtesgaden, Bavaria.
And now for the weather. Present weather is fair with slight dust haze. Winds are moderate, breeze of 16 miles per hour from the east. The temperature is 31 degrees Celsius or 87 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are moderate with waves not exceeding 5 feet. The weather forecast for today will be partly sunny with a 20% or slight chance of showers, and tonight will be partly cloudy with a 20% or slight chance of showers. Sunset today will be at 6:48 p.m., sunrise tomorrow at 5:47 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.